Hello, everybody. This video is kind of in lieu of a March update video. There's not really a lot to go into for March. We're playing a lot of Satisfactory. February was a pretty bad month. I don't want to concentrate on it. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Kind of going into March, I'm doing March Madness, where I'm writing a roughly 1,000 word story every day. So far, I've managed to do it. Day 8 was a little bit of a squeaker and possibly a little bit of a cheat. The story went up just after midnight on day 9, technically. So, but, we'll count it. We're getting there. So I thought what I'd do is just kind of go through the first week's worth of stories and just kind of give my feedback and kind of what I think about them and that kind of stuff. But, obviously, they're written and they're put straight out. Each one takes roughly about an hour of my time when I actually sit down and write them. Some of them are based on just ideas I've had. There is a Twitch redemption channel point that can be redeemed on a daily basis where people can give me free words and then I will use those as the basis for the story. We've had a few of those and those are picking up speed, more people are redeeming those as we get further into it. And hopefully that'll continue. It's a lot of fun. Kind of working on free random words which are given to me, and some of them I just pull random words out of a hat, and one of them, not that we'll get into this week, but one that I've done past the initial 7, I basically chose the free words I wanted to use because why not. So yeah, I thought I would just do a quick overview of each. I'm not going to sit here and read all of them to you. I don't think that would be particularly good. I just kind of want to do a brief kind of wrap up of what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and kind of possibly rate them towards the end as I kind of refresh myself of what I've done this week. You expect me to remember what I've done this week? They don't flow one into the other. They are all standalone stories. A lot of them I think you can look at as kind of starts to a much larger idea. Some of them are very standalone. But yeah, I thought that's what I'd do. If that sounds of interest to you, please come along. If not, see you in the next one. Okay, so on to the first story, which I got up on the screen. Again, I'm not going to read them out to you, and I'm just kind of scroll along and possibly highlight some things. It's just to have something more interesting on the screen than just my face, honestly. And you can see down the side, as I'm recording, we're on day 9 of March, so I've written up to 9. I haven't written the 10th day yet. That's for tomorrow, for the 10th. That's how it all works. Anyway, this is the first story. None of them have titles as such. They literally just come out as kind of March Madness, day 1, day 2, day 3, etc. So none of them have titles. This one was purely based on an idea I had. It was the first one. I hadn't put out a channel point redemption for free words, so it's just kind of sit down and write something. And I kind of toyed around with an idea that I've had for a while, which is, so a long time ago, I started a short story series called The Blacksmith, which is about this man who could kind of touch metal, touch swords, and kind of read the full history that had been imprinted on that, and possibly even see the future of what that sword would be used for. Kind of a blessing and a curse type thing. Didn't get hugely far with that idea, but it's an idea that I've always kind of liked since then. It's one I want to explore again at some point, once I can find the time. And this is kind of nudging against that. So the general thing of this story is it's kind of a blacksmithing school for the best of the best, and the best of the best will go on to become the blacksmiths of the kings of the land, right? Work in the royal armory. Whereas the rest of them will just go off and become, blacksmith, horsing shoes, and fixing wheel carts, that kind of stuff. Still very good blacksmiths, but just not good enough for the Royal Armory. So this is kind of, like I said, it's that kind of idea, and it's the final presentation. The people who are presenting have left on their desks their kind of final pieces. They're all swords, have left their final pieces, and they're going to be judged. And the teacher or the master is kind of walking through the benches, which are all littered with the different projects. He's not allowed to touch them. He's not the one who judges them. He's just allowed to kind of walk around and look. And in this story, he notices that one of them seems to have rune etchings on them, which are kind of glowing with magic. And this kind of thing is considered kind of these runed blades are kind of things of legend and fable, and are told to everybody to be absolute evil, basically. So it's kind of picking up with that kind of idea. He finds that one of the students has produced such a blade. The principal gets involved, and then it ends with the student in question. She's kind of hogtied to the floor in the principal's office, and they knock out the master, the teacher, who locks eyes with this sword and has some kind of reaction to it. Is definitely attracted to it, wants to see it again. Not quite in a Gollum ring type situation, but that kind of idea where, you know, the sword is definitely tried to imprint on him for some reason. Not that we get into that, because obviously it's a very short story. I liked this one. I thought this was a fairly strong start, honestly, and a very good idea, which would really flow into, if I ever wanted to get back and do the blacksmith again, would kind of flow into that. And kind of, if I was thinking further of this story, they're probably going down to see someone who may not be the blacksmith, but is akin to the blacksmith, down below, who knows more about these rune blades and the history about them. And then the kind of mystery in the story would probably pick up from there, with the main question being with the swords. You know, is the person who can create the rune sword evil? Are the swords evil? Is it more that people who are evil or are power hungry are more attracted to these blades, which would be more powerful than your normal sword? And so that's where the evil comes from. And is it more of a kind of symbiotic shared relationship between the two? And as these swords kind of live on past, you know, person to person, do they take on more personalities? Do they take on more of the people who have ever held it and wielded it and used it? I think that's kind of where this story would go. Probably be quite action-packed, very adventure-heavy, with, a lot of questions about good and evil, and that kind of stuff. Like I said, I liked this one. I enjoyed writing this one. I mean, I've enjoyed writing all of them, but this one I think has a lot of potential if I was ever kind of to go back and look at this and try and turn this into something bigger. So yeah, I think we got off to a strong start. And I very much enjoyed this one. Okay, so story number 2, which again just came from me. There was I think there may have been random words that I pulled for this one. This is before I put up top what the words were. You'll see as we go into the third one, I think I started to actually write down what the random words were and who pulled them, just so I could keep track of it. On the Patreon side, which is where all these stories are, by the way, if you go to cakeverse.co.uk, that will take me to my Patreon. There's a March collection, or Mild Madness collection, which has got all these stories in. They're not behind a paywall. Just go over there and read them if you like, and give me a feedback. I'd very much appreciate it. But yeah, this second one was a little bit interesting, because I kind of played a little bit of. So the basic premise of this is you've got a knight and more of an assassin type character. It turns out they're kind of sat atop a cliff. 2 armies are camped beneath them, and they're trying to work out some kind of peace summit over the side. And these 2 people have had a lot of run-ins over the years, even if they are on the enemy side. And we kind of hint around some of the stuff. It's revealed that, you know, Claude let Lily go, which is kind of how their relationship started. And it's hinted that that's kind of been reciprocated over the years, and that kind of these 2 people, they would never let any of their allies or friends or comrades come to direct harm because of these actions. But if it's kind of, you can let them go and it's not going to cause any immediate problem, that's kind of what you do. And it's definitely hinted at that there's a very strong friendship, kinship, and possibly even some romantic feelings from both of them. A little bit probably inspired by, you know, your classic romances like Romeo and Juliet and that kind of stuff, but I'm not a huge sappy kind of person, so kind of putting in, it's a very thin layer of kind of doomed romance, if you like. And you know, it's revealed that if I probably shouldn't give them all away in this video, right? Because I want you to go and read them, but can't really review them if you don't give a little bit away. And as I say, they are very short, so there's not too much to give away. But no, I liked this one. I liked the potential relationship between Claude and Lily. And I think kind of exploring that probably before this meeting has happened, probably going back to the beginning, probably still having this meeting be the beginning of the story. Try and make it a little bit longer and kind of, explain the world a little bit more than we have in this. Because again, it's short, so you kind of get to the point. But no, I enjoyed this one. I liked the relationship and the kind of the playfulness between the two of them. It's a little bit of tragedy, a little bit of romance. And yeah, I think if you were going to take this one further, you would go back to the beginning and you would look at that initial kind of contact between the two, how they kind of became friends and kind of these feelings grew for each other. And you'd probably intersperse that with kind of this final war that's going on where, Lily has been ordered to kill Claude in no indirect terms. Claude is your number one target because he is the hero of the enemy side and he must die. And I think you would kind of play around the kind of timeline, so you kind of have the kind of up-to-date big final battle happening, and Claude and Lily probably trying to avoid each other as much as possible, even though, like I said, Lily has been ordered to kill Claude, but mixed in with all of the kind of going back and seeing the kind of all of their kind of interactions in the past, both ones where they've caught each other doing bad things. Like I say, Lily is an assassin and Claude is the hero of the enemy as far as they're both concerned. So, they run into each other most of the time when they're doing something that they probably shouldn't be. And I think kind of playing with those and then playing with the relationship and then kind of seeing how it goes towards the end. Is it a kind of love conquers everything kind of story? Probably not. I'm not that kind of guy. Or is it a kind of terrible tragedy at the end? Probably. That's more my style. Maybe with some dragons. I don't know. But yeah, no, again, I liked this one. I thought this was a fairly good second story as well. And again, I think if you were going to explore it further, I think there is a lot there to explore. So yeah, I was pretty happy with this one. Probably a little bit stronger than the first one. I think the kind of, because this one is more character driven, and I think, the kind of taboo-ish relationship between Claude and Lily, it would definitely be a lot of fun to explore. And again, this one would be, I think, very action packed. There's going to be a lot of, big battle scenes as well, kind of like Band of Brothers type style. It's a big battle, but you're going to concentrate more on what is Claude and his bunch of guys doing, and what is Lily and whatever she's up to, surrounded by this big battle that's going on. And then, like I say, jumping into the past as their kind of relationship goes from beginning to end, and then ending either in tragedy or in romance, whatever it's going to be towards the end. But yeah, again, I thought this was fairly good and I enjoyed this one. Okay, so we're now on to story 3. I'm putting my hand up and pointing to the monitor as if you can see what I'm pointing at. You can't really. I mean, the way I've got my camera set up also makes it kind of look like I'm pointing at it to you guys as well. That's purely by accident, if that's true. Actually, that's not true. I do that on purpose. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. So yeah, story number 3. So as you can tell now that at the top, I've kind of put the 3 words that it's based on and the fact that it was a random roll by me. Just rolling on a table that's got most of the English dictionary words in it and seeing what came up. So the 3 words for this one were fire, spider, and spatula. Fire and spider, kind of pretty easy to put together. Spatula did put I suppose a spatula in the works, more of a spanner or a monkey wrench, depending on where you are. This one was kind of fun because, again, it was the first one where I took random rolls. No, the second one was random rolls as well. I just don't know what those random rolls were. I don't think they were as random as this. I think they kind of fit quite well together. But yeah, so I think this is the second one where we're doing random rolls. I enjoyed this one. I don't think this is a story you would really explore any further. I think this is kind of one and done. If I was going to redo it, it would probably become a lot longer because I think I would like to explore Harold a little bit more and the old man that he works for, who is the great grandfather of the king, I think, or the great wizard, the big leader of the society that they live in, big power, all powerful leader of the society they live in. And Harold is here because Harold is a bit of a Don Juan, bit of a lover, and just because you're somebody's wife doesn't take the target off you as far as he's concerned. And I think kind of you'd want to do a little bit more on that, a little bit more of Harold, and kind of the angle I would be trying to go for is that he's a little bit of a rogue, not quite as good-hearted as someone say like Han Solo, like a little bit darker and meaner than that, but not a bad guy, even if he is just a bit of a dick, right? So I kind of liked Harold, and his claim to fame is that he is, one of the best chefs in the kingdom, and he's ended up having to come to this old country house where he has to work for the great grandfather of the Grand Poobah. He doesn't like it. He's not happy, and the old man who lives there is just this miserable old curmudgeon, and they don't get on, and it kind of. I think this one starts well and then goes downhill a little bit. So it kind of ends up that there's a cupboard that is locked. Harold assumes this is where the old man just keeps his, the stuff, his snacks and stuff he doesn't want anyone else to eat, and he has no problem with that. But when the old man steals his good eggs, because he wants to make a cake, Harold wants to make a cake, the old man steals his good eggs, all the old man eats is boiled egg. Harold decides to open the cupboard, and it turns out that cupboard is fairly magical. He gets pulled in by a big hand, and that's where the fire spider is. And spoiler alert, Harold dies at the end, because it turns out you cannot be a spider with a spatula, fire spider with a spatula. At least Harold couldn't. I think this one is a little bit more fun. But yeah, like I say, I don't think this one has a huge amount of potential. I think, it came in at just over 1,000 words. I think it's probably potential for like a 5 to 10,000 word short story on this one. Probably closer to the 5 than the 10. Honestly, and I think you can have a lot of fun with it, but I don't think there's a lot more to this one than is already on the page. I think once he's in the cupboards, you'd probably want to explore that world a lot bigger. Like, I think that's the only place you could expand this story is by kind of turning the world in the cupboard into more of a world like it's in the wardrobe, in Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe. But that's not really what this story is about. You could do that, you could do like a kind of Gulliver's Travels type thing where there's just a load of weird stuff that he finds. But again, I don't think that would make a lot of sense. You could possibly try and explore the old man, but just having him be this kind of phantom figure for most of it. But then at the end, it goes to the old man's point of view and you realize he is just a massive dick. I don't think there's too much more to explore in this one, but it's definitely not the best. I think so far out of the 3 that we've gone through, I think the second one is still my favorite, closely followed by the first one. But yeah, again, I didn't mind this one. I didn't think this was awful. Okay, and we are straight on to day 4. This was the first one where 3 words were chosen by somebody over on Twitch, which was fantastic. It was great to have the input. They chose Beyond, Universe, and Catastrophic. I think, other than one that we're getting to, which was based on a fever dream I had, I think this is probably one of the weakest ones in terms of what's on the page. But I think, again, has a lot of potential. About this guy, Captain Bucktrout, he's on a spaceship. There's a massive kind of catastrophic seemingly living asteroid which has been hovering over Earth for a number of years and has just been destroying it, but hasn't come and ended it, even though it clearly has the power to do so. Last ditch effort, Bucktrout takes his ship spaceship Victory, up into space. Suicide mission, basically. And then it kind of takes a little bit of a turn where time itself splits apart and Bucktrout and the catastrophe end up together. And then there's this kind of, actually no, I think it is actually said in this, not hinted at, that Bucktrout created the catastrophe and possibly created all life and all time at some point, and is kind of stuck in this loop of whatever the hell kind of loop he's stuck in. It always ends, at the moment at least, with him destroying the catastrophe and kind of setting time back to the beginning. But there's also a hint that things do change from time to time, so that possibly this loop can be broken in whatever way it would need to be. So again, I don't know. I tried to be a little bit more. I don't think this one is particularly fun, but it's kind of space sci-fi, a little bit of horror, but the horror kind of rounded off at the edges to be a little bit more cuddly and surreal, more than just flat out horror. And again, it's very hard to do that in just over 1,000 words, but that's kind of what I was going for. Don't think I really hit that vibe particularly well, but that's kind of what I was going for on this one. And again, I think that the kind of general idea, obviously time loops have been done to death, as of, people who have started this bad thing happening and keep on going around until they can fix it. It's not a new idea, but I think you could have a lot of fun with that and kind of build up the relationship between Bucktrout and the catastrophe. I think could be a lot of fun. I don't think it is something I would ever work on, honestly. I think of the ones that we've written so far, I'd probably work on the first story, the Blades, or the second story, the Knight and the Assassin, rather than this one. But I don't think it's particularly bad. I don't think it was something that I would personally work on. And I think in kind of just what's on the page, it's one of the weakest, not the weakest. We're getting there. We're getting to the weakest. Again, I didn't mind it. I didn't think it was bad. I think it's quite an enjoyable read for the 1,000 words. But yeah, to take it any further, I think would take a lot of work. And well, I mean, it'd all take a lot of work and effort. I'd be fighting myself to try and get this to where I would want it to go. Never say never, but yeah, not the strongest. Okay, and we are on to day 5. This is the fever dream. So the background to this one is we're going from winter to spring, and I had my normal spring cold. And obviously as a man, that hit me very hard. I was definitely dying. And I went to bed quite early that night, and I had this fever dream. I don't think it's terrible, but it's definitely not good. It definitely feels like this is a dream somebody had, and not this is a good basis for a story. I think you could turn it into a good basis for a story. Again, I think it would be quite surreal, but just as kind of like the fever dream. And I kind of just wrote what I remembered. I didn't even try to turn it into anything more than that. So basically you've got someone who is clearly me, who is the driver of the car. My passenger is one of those it's a great big giant like gummy chewable bear thing, but a lot more movable, if that makes sense. And for some reason its arms can change into things, kind of like the Terminator from Terminator 2. For some reason, I don't know. It was a dream. We've robbed someone. We got cash flowing out of the car and we're keeping that going. We're being chased by the police. We get rid of the police. And then a giant orange tank with a female face starts chasing us. And for some reason, I've apparently had sex with this tank's daughter, which I really don't understand. But apparently that's what happened. So she's the mother's very angry. The tank is chasing us. I think they get taken out by some kind of accident. And it's kind of hinted that there's a spaceship waiting for us that we're trying to run away to. The engineer on that spaceship is Avril Lavigne, who, if you've been here for a while, is someone who often appears in my fever dreams. They were very much a side character. They were just heard through an intercom in this one. Didn't get to see them, but they did make an appearance. This, I think, is the weakest one of the first week. I actually think the one that I did on the 8th, which we're not going to get into in this video, is probably the weakest one I've done so far. But that was rushed. I was so far behind. And like I said, I didn't technically get it out until the 9th, but I'm counting it anyway. The gummy bear character, I think with a few tweaks, could be interesting, but I don't know what story you would put them in, right? So this one's also very short. It's way under the 1,000 words. And honestly, I think it's all better for that. So yeah, not a great one. Okay, and we are barreling into day 6. Again, 3 words. These came from Twitch, from one of my mods, LP, and it was Night, Puzzle, and Friendship. So I ended up writing a story about Nightbringer, who's a regular on stream, who hasn't been around as of late, but, we all hope he's doing well and hope he will turn back up at some point. But yeah, so kind of taking Nightbringer as the character and myself. And for the puzzle aspect, we were stuck in a Saw type puzzle escape room, basically, and we just kind of rolled from that. Now, again, it's interesting because Knight is a regular, did a Murder She Wrote podcast with him for a little while as well, which is why we're being held hostage by Jessica Fletcher from Murder She Wrote fame. But yeah, it's one of those interesting ones because I've never met Knight in real life. We've spoken a lot. Like I said, we did a podcast. We played games together. He's been around stream for a long time. And I know what I know, but I don't know anything outside of those contact points, and I have no idea what he looks like I don't for the majority of people who come to my stream. I have no idea what they look like. I know I did a very bad job of capturing Nightbringer in any way other than the very superficial on-stream persona, which it was fun to write. This was one of those ones where honestly I think the 1,000-word limit limited even this short part of the story. I came up onto that 1,000-word limit very quickly, and then just kind of had to squeeze out an ending. So it's not particularly satisfying ending. And like I said, I don't think either the character of myself or the character of Knight is very well explored. And there's no real justification given within the story other than kind of side jokes that people who've been around stream for a while might get to explain why Jessica Fletcher, a fictional character, take us hostage and put us in this puzzle room. And it's not going to explain the bathtub stuff or the loud noises that are happening above them in the bathtub. Again, if you've been around, you'll know what this is in reference to, but it's not explained in the story itself. So in many ways, I think this is kind of a weak one, but I do think this is a fun one for people on stream. Like not good for if you're just watching this video and have decided to head over and read these. You're kind of like, I don't really get this. This kind of goes nowhere, right? But if you get the references, I think it's a lot more fun. And yeah, I enjoyed writing this one. I enjoy this story. And again, I think this would be interesting. I think if I was to stretch this one out, I would probably take myself and all of the mods into the escape room and kind of build very superficial caricatures of all of them as we try to solve our way out of a Saw type escape room. I don't think we'd all make it. I'd hope we'd all make it, but I don't think we'd all make it. But yeah, again, I think this was a fun one, not the strongest, but again, not bad. All right, and if you're still with me, why? Have you not got anything better to do? Come on, man. But thank you. We are on day 7. This is the last one of the week. It's 3 words, Whiskey, Raft, and Sound Sen. It came from Rydog, again, one of my mods over on Twitch. Again, kind of coming off one where taking people from stream into a story. This one was very much the same. I called the main character C and R, but I'm pretty sure most people could work out who they're meant to be referencing. And then I also kind of brought in, so it's kind of set on the kind of Kevin Costner water-esque type world. We're on a raft. If you've never played the game Raft, I highly suggest you play it, especially if you've got some friends you can play it with. Great fun game. Go and check it out. And kind of taking inspiration from our shared experiences, because I did play Raft with my mods and it was a lot of fun. So kind of taking some shared experiences from that as well. And then kind of bringing stream as a whole kind of into the story as well. Like we're kind of all on this raft and we all kind of found each other somehow, you know, how these people randomly found me on Twitch and, you know, they stuck around and it's been great. I wasn't too sure how to take this story as I was coming towards the end. Again, this one is under the 1,000 words limit. And again, I think it's because I stopped myself on this story because I stopped it on a kind of high note, a note of friendship and continued friendship. And that's where I wanted it to end. Whereas I think if I'd gone much further, the raft probably would have ended up sinking and it would have been a more like the Titanic. And there would have been a door big enough, but only one of us would have survived. And I didn't want to take the story that way. I wanted this to be a lot more of a kind of, the people I have met while streaming have been fantastic. Some are still here. Some have been and gone. And it's weird, I think, just how much it has meant to me over the years I've been streaming that, you know, these people have come, stuck around. Like I say, some have come, some have gone, you know, some pop up every now and again, and it's great to see them. And again, I only get to know and interact with these people in these brief moments and kind of make up in my head the kind of the rest of what's going on with them. And it's great. And I kind of wanted it to end more on a happy note, you know, that because that's, to me, that's what streaming has been. It has been a happy place. It has been a safe place. A thing that has really helped my mental health, which not a lot of streamers will say, because streaming can be tough. And if you're just worried about the numbers and the money and all that kind of stuff, streaming is not going to be good for your health. But if you enjoy streaming and you enjoy chatting to communities and that kind of stuff, then it's great. And that's what I enjoy. And that's kind of what this was. It was that. Again, I don't know if it's a particularly fun read if you're just coming in to read the story from cold, as it were. But I liked this one. I enjoyed this one. It was a bit more personal. And I think, you know, whenever you can put a little bit of your own kind of personal stuff into a story, I think it does show. I think it does shine through. And I think that's kind of why I like the second one as well, because there's a little bit more personality in those two characters, which we didn't get to explore in the first one, which is much more setting up a plot and idea, and kind of the characters are kind of second to that. And I characters drive a story and get you interested, you know. And yeah, like I say, this one was just a nice kind of way that I can express just how, you know, thankful I am for what we've managed to achieve on streaming. I like this one. I like this one a lot. I don't think it's the strongest, like I say, from a story perspective, but I think it is one of my favorites that I've done so far. And then after this one, we get on to day 8, and that's a stinker. All right. So that is the first week of March Madness. It has been a lot of fun by and large, apart from the 8th, where I don't know why the 8th became such a struggle. I think it's honestly because I confused myself and I thought I'd already written the 8th, but that was the 7th. And then I kind of realized quite late on at the 8th that I actually needed to write something for the 8th. And then, you know, I was kind of sat up at like 11:30 going on to midnight, just kind of cranking something out. That has been the low point of the process for me so far. I don't know if I'll do another video like this going through next week's stories, or if I'll wait until we get to kind of like the end of the month, and I might just pick out kind of like the top 5 and do like a little bit of a more in-depth process. I mean, let me know if you'd like to see this for the next week, then let me know. I'll happily do it. But yeah, I'd make no promises that we'll do another one like this. It's just, I fancy doing it. I fancy sitting down and kind of going through and kind of, you know, not getting into the nitty gritty of the writing itself, because like I said, this is very, it's quick, it's first draft, it's written and it's out, right? So there's going to be spelling mistakes, there's going to be grammar errors. There's no doubt in my mind that I've probably changed tenses, probably mid-sentence, because I'm very, very bad at doing that when I'm writing. I don't know what it is, but I'm very bad with tense shifts, and I haven't gone through to try and edit those out or catch them, because that's not what March Madness is about. You know, it's about writing something, you know, the unpolished gems, putting it out there for people to read and see if they enjoy, and then, you know, maybe picking up one of these down the line and trying to turn it into something bigger. If you did like what you read and you want to read something a little bit longer, but which is still very rough around the edges and will actually cost you cash money, so I do have a book out called The Duplicate Prince, which is over on Amazon. I'll try to remember to put a link below. If you want to come and do free words for a story in the future, come on over to Twitch. I stream every weekday starting at 1 p.m. UK time. Now, there is only one of those redemption today, and today's went pretty quick. So if you're going to do it, you may have to get there early. But again, I would appreciate it. And if you just want to come and give me feedback or talk about one of the stories, that would be great. And that about does it. Hopefully this video has been enjoyable. I don't know. If you stuck around, thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. Do leave some comments below. I would love to see what you all think. Don't be too nasty. You can be a little bit nasty, but don't be too nasty. Come on, I am fragile after all. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you all when I see you all. Bye for now.